What's going on, gardeners? September is already more than halfway over and fall is officially here on the southeastern coast of North Carolina. But even though the fall season has only just begun, fall gardening season has been going on for weeks. And if you haven't started your fall garden by now, you are already falling behind. But never fear. On today's video, I'm going to share with you all an essential fall gardening checklist that every gardener should do right now.
If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and check out my Amazon store and Spreadshop links in the video description for everything I use in my garden and awesome custom apparel and gear.
Task number one that every gardener should do right now in their fall garden is to remove old plants and fallen fruits from their garden. This will help accomplish three things. Number one, it will stop invasive weeds because the fallen fruits with all the seeds inside of them won't germinate if you pick them up and you remove all of those fallen fruits. Number two, it will reduce overwintered pests and diseases because you can pull and yank out those dead and dying plants that are harboring diseases, and you'll remove all of those old pest eggs that are sitting inside those fallen fruits that you don't even know are there. And number three, this will clear out space for you to actually plant your fall plants. A lot of your garden space may still be taken up by old, dead, or dying plants, so yank them out and put something that you actually want in that space. All these old fallen fruits, well, this stuff isn't really helping anybody. We have got to get rid of this stuff. Just a few handfuls of fallen fruit like this can contain thousands of seeds and potentially contain thousands, maybe millions of pest eggs, so please, dispose of these in the trash where they belong. And old, dying, diseased plants like these can be harboring and colonizing pathogens that can spread to your healthy plants, so let's rip these out and get rid of them before the problem spreads. Task number two is to prepare your garden soil for the next wave of plantings, and I generally like doing this in three steps. The first step will be to take your garden soil and to pull all of the old weeds or any new plants that may be germinating inside of that soil. Step number two will be then to add a 2-inch thick layer of compost to all of your beds, and if it's going to be at least a month or two before you plant in those beds, you can also do things like place kitchen scraps down on the surface of your soil and then cover all of those kitchen scraps with the compost, because that will give them 1 to 2 months to break down and decompose before the planting. The third step is one that I like to do when I have enough time for the garden soil to sit and rest, at least 1 to 2 months, and that is to cover the garden soil with a tarp. Because what the tarp is going to do is it will prevent any weed seed germination for any of the seeds that may be mixed into your soil, and it will also lock in heat and keep that soil warmer, so the decomposition process will happen at a faster rate. So you'll be able to re-nutrify your soil at a faster rate. Now, if you don't have the luxury of time and you need to pull all of your old plants and put in the new plants right away, that is fine. You can skip this step. So if all you have time to do is pull out your old plants, place some compost, and then start a new planting, that is fine. However, I think if you do have some flexibility and you have time, say you have some transplants growing indoors that aren't going to be ready for 4 to 6 weeks, well, I think this is a really good step to take. Task number three should come as no big surprise, and that is to physically plant the seeds for your plants for your fall garden. Now is the time that we should be starting our seeds for fall. And right now we are in the second half of September, so if you're not sure exactly what to start from seed in September, I will link to a video both above and down in the video description that will share with you literally dozens of different plants that you can start from seed in September. Now, I like to make a video like that every single month that shows you what you can grow from seed on that month. So if you make sure to subscribe to my channel and stay tuned, in about a week I will have another video that will show you everything you can grow from seed in October. Task number four is to relocate any free volunteer seedlings that you have randomly growing around your garden and relocate them to a desired area to use those seedlings to grow a fresh fall crop. If you're a constant gardener like I am, you have something growing in your garden all times throughout the year. And what you find is that there is a tremendous amount of crossover in what you can grow in the fall relative to what you can grow in the spring. By that I mean fall is the second part of the year where we can grow cool crops. Well, back in the spring, I had lots of things like kale and cold hardy herbs and lettuces and brassicas and root vegetables growing all throughout my garden. And what happened was in May, when it started getting warm, they bolted and they went to seed, and then they seeded the ground around the area. Then it gets too hot in the summer for those seeds to germinate, so those seeds sit dormant in your soil for months until temperatures come back down and cool off again. Now that we are finally getting nights in the upper 50s, low 60s again, the soil is cooling down and you are starting to see those old spring seeds germinate. Back in the winter and spring, I had a huge dill plant that was growing right here, and that dill plant went to seed, but that seed wasn't viable throughout the summer because it was just too doggone hot. Well, now that it is cooling down, I'm starting to see those seeds germinate, and I have two beautiful dill plants right here. And you know what? This bed is actually a perfect place for me to grow that dill, so I'm just going to let them grow. Similarly, I'm starting to see some random cilantro plants germinate around my garden, and this was in a location where an old cilantro plant went to seed last April, and I don't want these seedlings growing here, but rather than rip them out, I would rather just stick my hand in, dig them out, and relocate them to where the dill is growing. Ironically, this old spot that's in between these two volunteer dill plants is just perfect to plant this cilantro, and they like similar weather, so they will do really well being companion planted. So I'm just going to pull back my soil a little bit, drop that cilantro plant in there, and then that is going to grab root. So that's like a free transplant right there, and we're getting a nice little rain shower right now, so I won't even need to water that in. Just like that, I got a completely free plant exactly where I want it to be. So be sure to check over your entire garden for free seedlings to relocate. In this bed, I have lots of kale seedlings germinating from an old red Russian kale that came up on its own over the winter, and I have fresh holy basil plants that are also germinating from this holy basil plant that is starting to go to seed. So if it's still going to be warm for a while, you can grow new basil plants. A wise man once said, "If it's free, it's for me." Task number 5 is to harvest, preserve, and store your summer harvests so you can eat them throughout fall and into the winter. And this is going to vary based on what you're harvesting. Things like potatoes, sweet potatoes, squashes, garlic, well, these things can be cured and they can be stored for months and months. In fact, I am still eating the potatoes that I stored back in spring, and they're still in really good shape. Things like sweet potatoes can be cured and store even longer than regular potatoes. So if it's about time for you to harvest your sweet potatoes, I'll link to a video above and down in the video description that will teach you how to cure and store them throughout the entire winter. Many winter squashes can be picked right off of the vine, and they'll store for months on their own without doing anything at all. You just keep them in a cool, dark, dry place. For your fruiting vegetables like your peppers or your cucumbers, pickle them. For things like your fruit trees, feel free to make jams and jellies. This right here is hot pepper fig jam that I made myself. You can also make things like salsa or tomato puree out of your tomatoes. Just follow some type of instructional video for how to can and preserve things that are high in acid in mason jars. When done properly, these can be stored in a cool, dry place like a garage or a basement for a year. And if all else fails, get yourself a vacuum sealer, chop up your vegetables and fruits, and just freeze them. You worked hard for these harvests. Don't let them go to waste. And if you are unfamiliar with these various pieces of equipment used to preserve and store food, I will make sure to place links down in the video description for these pieces of equipment for your convenience. Task number 6 is to order your bulbs right now, and that includes both edibles and your ornamentals. So whether you're growing things like garlic or whether you want flowers like tulips, daffodils, lilies, etc., now is when you want to order your bulbs so you have them in your possession, because generally speaking, fall is the best time to plant your bulbs. That's because a lot of the bulbs that we grow require accumulation of chill hours throughout the winter in order to flower. So for example, things like garlic, here on the southeastern coast of North Carolina, Zone 8B, I usually plant my garlic in November. However, if you live in a cooler zone than me, if you're well north or well inland of me, it is very possible that you will likely plant your garlic in October once it gets cool outside. So your cool weather planting of garlic is coming up rapidly, and it is very important that you order now. The same thing goes for a lot of your flowers. So if you like to have a nice daffodil garden or a tulip garden or a lily garden or whatever your bulbing flower of choice is, now is a good time to order those bulbs, get the best of the best selection before everything is sold out and picked throughout the fall, and then get them in the ground to accumulate the cool temperature hours over the winter so they bloom immediately during the spring. Task number 7 is to stock your shed or your garage full of garden clearance deals right now. Lots of stores, both brick and mortar stores and online stores, are beginning to clear out their inventory and sell leftover things from the spring and summer at rock bottom prices. In fact, on my community posts in my channel, I like to post deal alerts, things usually being sold online at an enormous discount, like lightning deals and sudden clearances. I usually try to post about 3 of them a week during this time of year because it's a lot cheaper to buy things like fertilizers, grow bags, seed starting trays, insect nettings, frost covers, things that were kept in stock all throughout the peak of the spring and early summer gardening season that are now just taking up room and precious space in their warehouses and inventory, and they're just desperate to get rid of them and clear out to make room for holiday items because things like Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, well, they are all approaching really quickly and they need to make room in the warehouse for these seasonal items. So to do that, they clear out their old spring and summer stocks at a massive discount. Also, if you find yourself at a Home Depot, a Lowe's, a Tractor Supply, a Walmart, or any place that has a large lawn and garden center, if you're out just doing your normal shopping, check out the lawn and garden department and see if they are marking down their fertilizers. Sometimes you strike gold and you hit a clearance deal and you can get bags of fertilizer for 75% off or more. It tends to be very random when this happens. Sometimes it doesn't happen at all. It will happen at different times in different regions. You kind of just have to luck out. But if you find yourself at those stores already, always swing by the lawn and garden department and see if they have anything marked down for clearance deals at the end of the season. Task number 8 is to start stocking your cold protection items already. Things like frost blankets, agricultural fabric covers, and plant jackets, because before we know it, the cold weather will be here. It is best to stock these things to protect your cold sensitive plants and your fall or winter garden from a sudden hard frost or a hard freeze now, so you're not scrambling around at the last minute going to the store and trying to get something on the spot if we are going to have a sudden plunge of cold temperatures. And this task actually builds on task number 7, which is to stock up on your garden items now while they are on deep discounts. A lot of your agricultural fabric and your plant jackets are on sale right now because they are out of the season. But once it starts getting much colder out, the prices will increase and they will only sell at normal price, or they will raise the price for the season, because if you absolutely need to get them, well, then you're stuck paying the full price. So stock up now while you can get things 20, 30, 40% off. If you are curious how I protect my cold sensitive plants throughout the winter, I'll link to a playlist above and down in the video description that shows you all of my various cold protection methods. That's how I'm growing things like avocados and citrus in ground in North Carolina. In fact, it's just about time that I give my Meyer lemon and my Lila avocado a haircut because they are too big to protect right now. So I'm going to give them a massive pruning, reduce their size by about 50%, and then they will fit comfortably underneath a plant jacket. And for things like your annual vegetable garden, I love building these hoop structures over my raised beds. I will also link to a video above and down in the video description that will show you how to build these hoop structures to put over your raised beds. All they use is just 1/2-inch pipe from Lowe's or Home Depot. You can build one in 30 minutes or less for very little money. These work like gangbusters to keep the hard frosts off of your plants, and you can find yourself growing cold hardy vegetables deep into the winter, deeper than you ever thought possible. And task number 9 is to order your fruit trees for next spring. Yes, I know it is hard to believe, but generally speaking, fruit trees go on sale from online nurseries in October or November. Some websites are even taking pre-orders right now. And it is very important that you start this process early because the best varieties are going to go out of stock quickly. So if you want the pick of the litter and you want to look through as many varieties as possible, now is the time for you to place your orders. Do not delay, do not wait until winter, until everything has been picked over and you're stuck with what's left. Do this in the early fall. People ask me all the time, where are the best places to buy fruit trees online? Well, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of great online retailers for buying fruit trees, but here is a short list of some that I recommend, almost all of which I have purchased from and have had great experiences. One Green World, Just Fruits and Exotics, Rain Tree Nursery, Four Winds Growers, Bay Laurel Nursery, Peaceful Heritage Nursery, Bottoms Nursery, Plant Me Green, Plantogram, Bob Wells Nursery, Burnt Ridge Nursery, Cummins Nursery, Off the Beaten Path Nursery, Handpick Nursery, Brightleaf, Edible Landscaping, Stark Brothers, Logis, Restoring Eden, Willis Orchard Co., Trees of Antiquity, and my personal favorite for buying citrus is Mackenzie Farms of Scranton, South Carolina. I get almost all of my citrus, all of my grafted citrus, from Stan Mackenzie of Mackenzie Farms, but you actually have to call him to order the citrus. So I recommend you look him up on Google Maps, Mackenzie Farms, Scranton, South Carolina. Give him a call and he will ship the citrus trees to you. And that right there are 9 tasks on my essential fall gardening checklist that you should all do right now. If you have never grown a fall garden before, I urge you to please give it a try. Everything about fall gardening is better and easier than gardening in the spring and the summer. The temperatures get cooler, the humidity goes away, the storms die down, yet it is still nice and mild and generally sunny out, and it is just a treat to be outside at this time of year. Plus, the fungal diseases and the bacterial diseases die down, the insect pest pressure tends to go away, everything gets easier, and it is just a whole lot of fun. Not to mention the crops themselves tend to be a lot easier. Your leafy greens, your root vegetables, your brassicas, they don't require the pruning and the staking and a lot of the maintenance that our summer gardening vegetables do. So it's basically like gardening on autopilot by comparison. And it also helps stave off that seasonal affective disorder. If you start to get depressed when the days get really short and the sun gets low in the sky like I do, being outside and having a garden to tend to throughout the fall and into the winter, well, it is just a godsend. And if you plant your fall garden right now and you let those crops get nice and mature, well, I think you will be surprised just how deep into the winter they will grow, possibly all winter long, if you cover them with things like row covers and frost blankets. So everybody, I sure hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and please ring that notification bell so you're notified when I release more videos like these. If you're curious about any of the products that I use in real life in my garden, I have them all linked down in my Amazon storefront in the video description. So expand the video description, click on the Amazon storefront link, you'll see everything I use in real life. And while you're down there, please check out my spread shop for custom merch if you want to support the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see all of you again on the next video. Well, we had such a nice trip in Florida with Dale, didn't we, buddy? It was so nice to take you down to Florida and see the property and go to the beach, but now it's time to go home and we're in Hardyville, South Carolina getting gas. We're just waiting for Mommy to return from the bathroom, right? And Dale's attention is focused fast on the door. He can't go anywhere without Mommy. But we had a really nice trip, didn't we, buddy? Don't worry, we'll go again in a few months, I promise.